Jaya Satsanga Deho he amare Boshasi Sangera Ashe Ekaki amar nahi pai balo Harinama Sankirtane Tumi kripa kori Sharabindu diya Deho Krishna namadane Krishna se tomar, Krishna ji te paro, tomara shakti ache. Krishna se tomar, Krishna ji te paro, tomara shakti ache. Amito Ganga, Krishna Krishna boli, Daita va pache pache. Oh hey Vaishnava Thakur, Doyara Sagara, Idasiko. Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Ujjvala-varana Guru-varadeham Nivasita Niravadi Bhava Videham Tribuna Pavana Krupaya Lesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam Gagaram Tara Bhava Vikaram Durjana Tarjana Nada Vishalam Bhavabhaya Bhajana Karana Karunam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam Arnam Bharadara Charukapola Hindu Vinindita Nakachaya Ruchiram Japita Ninja Gunanama Vinodam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Vigalita Nayana Kamala Jaladara Bhushanda Navarasa Bhava Vikara Gatiyati Mantara Nritya Vilasam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Chanchala Charu Charana Gati Ruchira Manjira Ranjita Pada Juga Madhura Chandra Vinindita Shitala Vadanam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Jitajati Dora Kamandalu Dandam Divya Kalevara Mundita Vundam Durjana Kalmasha Kandana Dandam Tamkana Mamicha Shri Sachitanayam. Dushana Buraja Lakavalitam Kampita Bindara Paravichiram Malaya Javira Chitta Ujjvala Tilakam Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Nindita Aruna Kamala Dalanayanam Ajanulam Vita Shri Vijayagalam. Kalivara Kaishara Nartaka Vesha Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Ujjala Varana Gora Vara Deham Vilasita Nirabari Bhava Videham. Jivuna Pavana Kupaya Lesham Tam Pranamami Cha Shri Sachitanayam. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Gaura Hari. Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Sachinandana, Jai Gaura Hari. Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Viva Vaisesika. Viva Vaisesika, Aloka Pradesha, Nidrachari Utajiva. All together. Bolo Hari Hari Mukunda Murari Rama Krishna Hayati Va. All together. All together. Nrsinga Vamana Shimadusudana Rajendra Nandana Shama Bhutana Gatana Kaitava Shatana Jagasharat Gaumama Yashoda Dulala Govinda Goma Vrindavana Puran Dahana Gopi Priyajana Radhika Ramana Bhuvana Sundara Bhoda Ravana Takara Makana Taskara Gopi Jana Vastrahari Rajana Rakolo Gopakunda Pala Chittahari Vamsi Ahari Yoginda Vandana Srinandana Rajajana Vayahari Nadina Nirada Rupa Manohara Navam Shivi Hari Yash Nandana Kamsani Sudana Nikunjara Savilasi Kadamba Kamyada Rasa Parayana Vinadi Pini Vikasi Ananda Vardana Premani Ketana Ulashara Jojakama Gopanga Nagana Chitta Vinodana Samasta Gunagana Dharma Jamna Jivana Keliparayana Manasa Chandra Chakora Ram Sudarasa Yau Krishna Dasa Rakova Chana Manamora Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Divinity and Divine Service. Vyasuvacha iti samprashna samvishto vipranam maharshini Gati puja vachastesham pravaktum upachakrame. Sutuvacha yam pravajantam anupetam apetya krityam dvaipayano viraha kartara ajuhava putreti tanmayatayataro vinedus tam sarva puta hridayam munim anatosmi yasvanubhavam akila shruti saramekam adhyamadhipam aditirshatam tamontam samsarinam karunayaha purana kuyam tam vyasa sunum upayami guru muninam narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayet unayak sadhu prishtoham bhavadbirloka mangalam yakrita Krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidati savaipum samparo dharmo yato bhaktir adhoksaje ahetukiya pratyata yayatma suprasidati vasudeve bhagavati bhakti yoga prayojita janayat yashivairagyam jnanam chayadahaitukam dharmashvanustita pumsam vishvaksena katasuya notpadayed yadiratim shrameva hi kevalam dharmasya hyapavargasya nartortayopakalpate nartasya dharmaikantasya kamolabhaya hi smrita kamasya nendriya pritir labo jivete yavata jivasya tattva jignasya narto yascheha karmabhi padanti tattva vidas tattvanyajjanamadvayam rameti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdyate tashchadadhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pashyantyatmani chatmanam bhakta shruta grihitaya atapumbir dvija shreshta varnashrama vibhagasha swanustishtasya dharmasya samsadir haritoshadam tasmadekena manasa bhagavan sattvatamvati Shrotavya kirtitavyascha Dyeya pujascha nityada Yad anudyasina yukta Karma granti nibandhanam Shindanti kovidastasya Kona kuryat kataratim Shushushro shradhanasya Vasudeva kataruchi Syan mahat sevaya vipra Punyatirtha nishevanad Shinvatam swakata Krishna Punya shravana kirtana Prityantaksto hyapadrani Pitunoti suhritsatam Nashta praeshu bhadreshu Nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavat yutama shloke Bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Tada rajastamo bhava kama lobha dayaschaye cheta eter anavidham stitam sattve prasidati evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate vidyate hridaya grantish chityante sarva samshaya Shyante chasya karmani Drishta evatmanishvare Ato vai kavayo nityam Bhaktim paramayamuda Vasudeve bhagavati Gurvantyatma prasadanim Sattvam rajastamayiti prakritir gunaistar Yukta para purusha eka ihasya date Stityada ye hari varinshi hareti samja Sheyamsi tatra kalu sattva tanor nrinam suhu Parthiva dharano dhumas tasmad agnistrayimayaha tamasastu rajastasmad sattvam yad brahmadarshanam Bejare maniotagre bhagavan tamba toksajam sattvam vishuddham shemaya kalpante yenutaniha mumukshavo koda rupan hitva bhuta patinata narayana kalashanta bhajanti yanasuyava rajastama prakritaya samashila bhajanti vai pitrir bhuta prajeshadin shri aishvarya prajepsavaha vasudeva paraveda vasudeva paramakha vasudeva parayoga vasudeva parakriya vasudeva param jnanam vasudeva param tapa vasudeva parodharmo vasudeva paragati sa evedam sasarjagre bhagavanatma mayaya sarasadrupaya chasau gunamaya guno vibhu taya vilashiteshveshu guneshu gunavaniva antak pravishta abhati vignanena vrajimbrita yata yavahito vanir darushveka swayonishu naneva bhati vishvatma bhuteshu chatatapuman asau gunamayer bhaver bhuta sukshmendriyatmabi swanirmiteshu nirvishto bhukte bhuteshu tadgunan bhavayatyesha satvena lokan vai lokabhavana Lilavatara Devatiryannaradishu Iti Srimad Bhagavate Mahapurane Paramahamsyam Samitayam Pratamaskande Namishio Prakyane Vitiyo Dhyayaha Hari Om Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Divinity and Divine Service Ki Jai Go Premanande Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Srimad Bhagavatam class. Actually, I guess Chaitanya Chaitanya Lila chapter 20. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Okay. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Sorry. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Ram.
These can go over to Prabhu. Gopal gave me these, or this, in Vrindavan. You know Gopal, the Mridanga player from the 24-hour kirtan? He's Rita's son. I used to do Sankirtan with his father at O'Hare Airport. And he had a son. He's an expert Mridanga player. He just intuitively knew how to play the drum. Anyway, he gave me this. So whenever I play this, one time we had a kirtan at Govardhan Hill, and it was during the festival for Govardhan Puja. We have the program on the roof, usually. And then after there's a class about the lifting of Govardhan Hill and Govardhan Puja, then we go down the stairs, and at that ashram, it's an old palace. I call it a fortress. It's big, thick walls. It has on top a small room it's like a hallway, but it forms a room that you go through. And then when we come off the roof, then we come through that room, and everyone crowds in there, and the kirtan reverberates down the stairwell. And that's kind of ecstatic. Just like in Toronto, when they have the Rath Yatra, there's a famous bridge. And once the whole kirtan party of hundreds of devotees gets underneath the bridge, they go nuts. Because you get the special effect of the sound being trapped inside. Same thing in Vrindavan. Every morning right after the Guru Puja, there's a kirtan in front of the deities, and then Prabhupada goes around the temple, circumambulates. There's a parikram path right around the temple. And there's a tunnel. And similarly, the devotees go wild in there too. So once they get in there, they stop and they appreciate the amplified sound that is trapped inside. Anyway, we came down the stairs, and then we were having kirtan. It was probably about 6 madangas and a lot of kartals, and I had this, and it really stood out. Because even amidst 7 madangas and many, many kartal players, you can still hear. And we were having a simple kirtan with the Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I always feel like that tune is going into battle. It sounds like, let's go. We're going in. I don't care what anybody says. And it was just such an uplifting experience. I'll never forget it, being Govardhan. And we were circumambulating the cows because there's a goshala at the bottom. And then we were playing that we were singing that tune, and I had these Gopal had given me. And it just became unhinged, is all I can describe. The devotees felt uplifted by the kirtan and went crazy. dancing and singing, and I think this had something to do with it, so I hang on to it. Gopal is kind of a spontaneous devotee. He's very joyful always, and loves kirtan, and so whenever I think of him, I become happy. So these memories of devotional service, when we go to events, we may be absorbed and find a time when we just get carried away. There's no explanation for it except for its waves of ecstasy, and we feel helpless in them, and we either start dancing or we just feel so completely satisfied and then feel determined, and then afterwards our senses feel enlivened. We just want to do more service. And devotional service is easy in that way because when we come in contact with devotees who are attached to the holy name and who are performing Panchangam Bhakti, especially the 5 main features of Bhakti, and then once one's fulfilled with those, he or she becomes so eager to perform all the aspects of Bhakti, like taking Charnamrita. Anywhere one goes, it's a great treat. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that he sees the spiritual world whenever he takes Charnamrita because it comes from the lotus feet of the Lord. And so in any temple one goes to, one can take Charnamrita. I'm fortunate because I have Sudhir Madhava Prabhu, and he always makes sure I take Charnamrita, and then I never miss it. That's like his main service. Whenever I was here at ISV, he'd always bring me Charnamrita, say, take Charnamrita before you go. And when I'm in Vrindavan, he'd always get the Charnamrita from Prabhupada's Samadhi or from the temple, and it became a ritual. I sit down in the same place every day and take Charnamrita. Akarumita haranam sarva vyadi vanashanam Vishnu parurukam vidva shirashadariyam yaham. When you take Charnamrita, you say this mantra, shirashadariyam yaham. I'm placing this on my head. I'm honoring this nectar through which I will achieve a deathlessness. It's Amrita. And that's a simple joy. Just that one activity of taking Charnamrita can touch the heart enough that one will make a decision that I don't think I'll hang around the material world anymore. I think I'll go to the spiritual world. In fact, when I first joined the San Francisco temple, I was starving because I think I'd been fasting a lot. And everything tasted good to me in devotional service, especially Charnamrita. They used to make it was almost like a milkshake or something. It wasn't this thin, but it was creamy and nice. And I know some devotees, like Janakanath Prabhu, I'd see him in there sometimes, he'd be like 6-7 times taking Charnamrita, practically drinking it. But I can remember when the Charnamrita would come around, I was thinking, yeah, give me more, take Charnamrita. It was so good, so tasty. And in the San Francisco temple, it was all of us living in one building together. There was a downstairs and an upstairs. The ladies' ashram was downstairs when I first joined, and then we were all living upstairs. And then there was a pujari room, long hall, went down to the pujari room, and outside the pujari room, there was always these pitchers of maha water, and they're filled up with the water that had been offered to the Lord, some of his bath water, and they always had flower petals in them. And so when I first came to the temple, then people had to follow me around to tell me, do this, don't do that. A few devotees especially, like Vijayatatma Prabhu, my godbrother who was still around, he used to chastise me at every step. Don't touch that, don't do this. And other people, they had a approach like, oh, come over here, I'll show you how to do this. I appreciated both sides, knowing what not to do and what's also how to do things. And the person who taught me how to drink water was Jayananda Prabhu. He was our Bhakta leader when I joined. He used to take us out every day on Harinam. And so he took me to the end of the hall and said, I'll show you how to drink this water out of the pitcher. You don't even need a cup. So he'd hold it up and then lean his head way back and pour with it, right straight into... Exhibit A. I drink Crystal Kaiser. And I just remember the flavor of the water. It had flower petals in it, and the sun is coming in through the windows. I'm standing in that hallway with the devotee. Everything smells good. Everything's happy. There's nothing to do but devotional service. High school's in the rear view mirror. And just drinking the water there, I felt satisfied, happy. And now when I remember it, I think of my godbrother Jayananda Prabhu and the kindness he showed to me, just like, here, come over here, I'll show you how to drink this water. And that those items that we come in contact with, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings a whole song about it, Shuddha Bhakata Charana Renu, and how the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees is the impetus for pure devotional service. And then he goes through and lists all the ways in which one can come in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At every step, there's this feeling of intense love and connection, or at first it just feels perhaps mystically curious, and then joyful, and then there's a sense of attachment to the processes, and then there's a sense that there's somebody behind it, and then there's the smiling face of Krishna in the deity. Everything's there. The whole spiritual world is here in our midst, from the establishment of temples all over the world. The holy Dham is there. We have the process of chanting Hare Krishna and so forth. And as we go through our lifetime, whether we're preoccupied with other things at the moment or not, like working and so forth, every experience that we have in Krishna consciousness where we feel touched, even if it's for a second. Every time we chant a verse, a chapter, for instance, like today, and we go, oh yeah, this is starting to feel like an old friend. I remember the times when we used to chant it here, there. I can remember times when we finish japa a little early, just on the festival days, we sit in the back room, it's cold, and we chant the verse, and we feel warm and happy. And all those develop into a conglomeration of feelings we have in our life for the process of devotional service, which is non-different from Krishna. And as we get older and we see the futility of the material life, there's fewer distractions, and we can just decide to give our whole attention to Krishna consciousness. All of those experiences will come to bear. They're a sense of strength in our heart that I know this. This is the only thing I like, actually. Nothing else is tasteful to me. And even as the senses are diminishing, our internal senses are awakening, and we're experiencing happiness. For instance, touching the Dham, we feel, yeah, I feel at home here. This is my real home. I feel at home living in the holy Dham, or just visiting the Dham. It feels like my place. And seeing devotees, happy to see devotees of every ilk, every devotee who comes, and you see how rare of a soul he or she is, chanting, dancing, and so forth. So this is the joyful process of devotional service. And we only enter deeper and deeper into that ocean of taste for the relationship with Krishna, the spiritual world, all the devotees, all the variety in the spiritual world. It's all Krishna. It's all a manifestation of his internal energy, and it's unlimited. That's what everyone's trying to get here. Think if I get enough money and I can get enough variety in my house. But it fails. Everyone ends up buying a television, just sitting there. I give up. I'll just look at this. And then you have to listen to somebody else's programming where they don't know what they're talking about or how to find happiness. And everyone is walking around really disappointed. Like, I really tried hard, and I got all this money, but still I feel worse than I was before, because at least I had hope that somehow I'd find happiness, but now I know there isn't any. So when people hear the Hare Krishna mantra and they see devotees enthusiastic just to be alive and to be able to do service and to do something for others and pass out knowledge, then there's a little glimmer of hope in their hearts too, that maybe I can do this. Maybe there is something after all. Maybe it's not a complete loss. Many people are suicidal. They go through life with this sense that I'm worthless and I don't know what to do in life, and they just become really depressed because of the mode of ignorance. But a spark of devotional service and the kindness, the kind touch of devotees who offer a hand up out of the material modes of nature can change everything in the lives of people who are suffering what they call quiet lives of desperation. So behind the scenes, just feeling desperate and not knowing what to do. So we're very fortunate to be able to engage in all the different aspects of devotional service, and the more that we can be in contact with devotional service and the more experience we have with that, then the more our position in the spiritual world is solidified. When we leave this body, we'll either get another chance in the next life to take to the process of devotional service, or, well, in any case, we will, to whatever degree, for those who have taken it up in this life, even if just for a moment, what to speak of those who leaned into it. What do you think? What? You concur? Yes. Okay. Let's sing Jai Radha Madhava. This song Prabhupada just introduced to the world, came and sang this song every time he would speak. When he would give Bhagavatam class, he'd sing the song. In Mayapur in 1975, he came back from morning walk. He'd come in the temple. There were these bells that had ropes on them, and Prabhupada would come in and everyone would follow him, and then he'd stop and ring the bells. And when he'd ring the bell, jing, 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 all the devotees would jump up and down in ecstasy. And then he'd come and sit down, and then Prabhupada would sing Jai Radha Madhava. And then one day, he just was in the middle of singing it, and he stopped, as if frozen, and nobody knew what to do. The whole temple room, there was 350 devotees there from around the world. It just went quiet. And everyone was sitting, what should we do? His Prabhupada was in some kind of a stunned state. And then Hansaduta started singing, Hare Krishna. And then Prabhupada kind of came out of his trance, and everyone started singing and dancing. So it's a very special song. It was dear to Prabhupada, and it was written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Uh-oh. I ordered new harmoniums just in case, but they're not going to get here until I get back in April. Hare Krishna. That first tune. That's the second one. Hare Krishna. Huh?
This first set, which Jai Radha Madhava tune?
The first one? Not the original one, but the first one that I started doing. That's a combination of, like, Hare. All right, do the second one then. Hare Krishna, Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava, Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janna Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Vraja Jana Ranjana 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 Jamuna Tira Mamachari Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Try to double. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. First part of the double. That second part. It starts like on a G. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gaur Hari Bo. Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's in a case. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhaktivinoda. So the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita is a garland of verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's the most everything in every place. But here in chapter 22 of the Madhya Lila, we're in the teachings that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave to Sanatana Goswami. And this chapter is called The Process of Devotional Service. So let's look at a few of the verses and especially go a little deeper into the ones that are quoted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the pen of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in his teachings to Sanatana Goswami. And the first verse in Madhya 22, text number 1, is Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Tam Karunarnavam Kalav Apyati Gudhedyam Bhaktir Yena Prakashita. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is an ocean of transcendental mercy, and although the subject matter of Bhakti Yoga is very confidential, he has nonetheless manifested it so nicely, even in this age of Kali, the age of quarrel. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Nityananda Prabhu, all glories to Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Somebody please say a verse about Srila Advaita Chandra. Advaitam Harina Dvaitad. Advaita Acharya Ashraya. It's from the Mangalacharna. He gives 2 verses about Advaita Acharya and glorifying him. He's the one who called out for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to the material world. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, it's because of your loud cries that I came here to the material world. So it's an indication also of how one can perform devotional service. You have to really want it, and you have to cry out for it. And if you do, then Krishna will come. Otherwise, he's listening, is like, nah, he's not really into it. That's not a real cry. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I have described one's relationship with Krishna in various ways. This is the subject matter of all the Vedas. Krishna is the center of all activities. Now I shall speak about the characteristics of devotional service by which one can attain the shelter of Krishna and his loving transcendental service. A human being's activities should be centered only on devotional service to Lord Krishna. That is the verdict of all Vedic literatures, and all saintly people have firmly concluded this. When the mother Vedas, Shruti, is questioned as to whom to worship, she says that you are the only Lord and worshipable object. Similarly, the corollaries of the Shruti Shastras, the Smriti Shastras, give the same instructions just like sisters. The Puranas, which are like brothers, follow in the footsteps of their mother. O enemy of the demon Mura, the conclusion is that you are the only shelter. Now I have understood this truth. This quotation is from the Vedic literature, was spoken by the Lord, to the Lord by great sages. We don't know which great sages, but who can give a verse, a parallel verse, that gives the abstract of what that verse just said? I'll give you a hint, it's very easy. And it's in the Bhagavad Gita, and you all know the verse. And it's one that we chant every time we do a grain ceremony. Come on. I didn't give enough? Go ahead. Sarvasya chaham hridishani vishto matak smitir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarver ahameva vedyo vedanta krid veda vedeva chaham. Could you explain why that's parallel to what we just read?
So in this verse, Krishna is saying that he's a source of remembrance and forgetfulness. He is a compiler of the Vedanta, and through all the Vedas he is supposed to know. So this verse said that not just the Vedas, but all the corollaries like Shrutis, Smritis, and Purana, they also conclude that one should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Yeah, they're all pointing in one direction. Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. Also, we find in the Upanishads, in the Kali Santarana Upanishad, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. Those who know what to look for in the Vedas know that it's Krishna they're all pointing to, and the way to contact Krishna is through Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna is the non-dual absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although he is one, he maintains different personal expansions and energies for his pastimes. Purport: the Lord has many potencies, and he is non-different from all these potencies. Because the potencies and the potent cannot be separated, they are identical. Krishna is described as the source of all potencies, and he is also identified with the external potency, the material energy. Krishna also has internal potencies or spiritual potencies which are always engaged in his personal service. His internal potency is his internal potency is different from his external potency. Krishna's internal potency and Krishna himself, who is the potent, are always identical. Okay, let's discuss. Give some evidence from Bhagavad Gita and elsewhere about Krishna's potencies. Yes. You've already got 20 points. You're going for 40 now. Go ahead.
In the 7th chapter, Krishna talks about the 4th and 5th verse, the external potency and the marginal potency. He compares soul to be superior. So 7:4 says, Aparayam itastanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhuto mahabhavo ye yedam dharate jagat. So he's saying that that there are earth, water, fire, air, ether.
That Bhumirapo
Sorry,
Nalavayu.
Bhumi, Rapo, Anila, Vayu. So I think the 7-4 is Bhumi, Rapo, Anila,
Yes.
Vayu, Kam, Mano, Buddhi, Revacha, Ahankara, Iti, Yame, Bhinna, Prakriti, Ashtadha. So he says the 5 gross and the 3 subtle elements are his separated energies. In the next verse, he says that Aparayam itastu anyam prakriti viddhi me para jiva bhuta mahabhao yayidam dharite jagat. That superior to these 8 is the spirit soul, the jiva, who is the marginal energy of Krishna.
And it's parats. It's differentiated, as mentioned here in the purport, right? Well done. Nice. More about potencies and how Krishna has variegated, multifarious potencies. Because the Mayavadis say that God has no potencies. It's amorphous oneness. And perfection means realizing one's non-identity, if that's even makes sense. Doesn't. But what verses from, for instance, the divinity and divine service designate the Lord in various categories? Of course, I can't hear a word through the Mass, but if you work with me, people. Okay, go ahead.
Vadanti tattva vedas tattva yadgyanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti shabdate. Which
Expound.
There are 3 forms of the Lord, Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan.
Even though he is Advaya Gyan Tattva, he's one truth. But still there are divisions, right? Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan. That explains in that verse in a summary way that there are various potencies of the Lord. It's really important to know that he has multifarious potencies. Can anybody else do more? If you know more, please say more.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, please, go ahead. And turn on the Zoom room, please, for a moment.
Yeah, so Maharaj, this is a verse from Upanishad where it says, Na tasya karya karanam cha vidyate, na tat samas cha abhyati kasya drishyate, parasya saktir vividaiva shriyate, sabhaviki kriya jnana valam cha. So the verse says that there is no one who can be seen as equal to him or no one beyond him. And he has multifarious energies which act spontaneously without any external, direction or influence.
Yes, that's one of the quintessential verses. Parasya Shakti Vividaya Shuddha. So Bhaviki Jnana Bala Kriya Cha. Even names the various potencies that the Lord has. So he's expanded everywhere. Can anybody say more? If you know more, please say more. Yes. If you work hard in these sessions to come up, and don't be afraid to say something that you think is wrong, because you can always tie it together somehow. We'll fix it if it's off. Go ahead.
This is one verse which you quote very often. It's from Vishnu Puran.
Yes.
Quoted in CC Adi 7:119. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetra Jakya Tatha Para Avidya Karma Samgamgya Tritya Shakti Rishyate.
Translation.
The internal potency of the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, is spiritual as verified by the Shastras. There is another spiritual potency known as Kshetragya, of the living entity. The third potency, which is known as Nishayans, makes the living entity godless and fills him with fruitive activity.
Yeah, what a nice summary, right? And actually that's verse is quoted a little further along in this chapter from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, quoting from the Vishnu Purana. And this one describes the 3 different aspects of the Lord's major potencies: internal, external, and marginal. And just gives some characteristics of each one. Excellent. And, okay, yes. It's Chakadola. I just see Chakadola's hand, so I couldn't.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
In 7.
Are you in the book room,
7.14,
Chakadola?
Lord Krishna's. Yes,
Chakadola, you live in the book room.
Yes, Guru.
Do you see Vaishnavas everywhere you look? Just books everywhere. Okay, go ahead, Chakadola. This is very right.
In Bhagavad Gita
Nice
7.14, 7.14, Lord Krishna says that Devi hi esha gunmai. Maya duratya, mame vaja prapadyante, maya metam taranti. That how Maya is transcendental and it's Lord Krishna's energy. And only by surrendering to him, one can cross over this material world. That this shloka refutes the Mayavad philosophy, who says that when Lord Krishna comes here, he gets under the modes of material nature.
And how does it defeat the Mayavad conception that he comes under the modes of material nature? What's the logic behind that you're using?
Yes, because Lord Krishna says that Maya is his energy. And if the Mayavadi says that Maya can cover Krishna, it means Maya is greater than Krishna.
Did everybody
Which
make
is
note
totally...
of how well he used that verse to defeat the Mayavad philosophy? Nicely done, Chakadola. Thank you. Has everyone assimilated everything we've said so far? He quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, where Krishna says, Daivahi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. And so he says, this divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. And he's talking about his external energy. He said, but those who surrender unto me can easily cross beyond it. So Chakadola Prabhu was saying that some people say that the personality of God who appears in the world is a manifestation of Maya, and that Maya, therefore, is superior to the personal form of the Lord. But the Lord here is saying that those who are afflicted by Maya and covered by it can become free by surrendering to my personal form. And he was making the point that Krishna is the Lord of Maya. He's the one who manifests it. It comes from his energy. It's not that he's controlled by that energy or produced from that energy, which is Mayavad idea, that God is a product of the three modes of material nature. His body is Maya. Yes? Do we get the microphone?
Sorry, it's a
Not
very
at
basic
all.
question, but what is he referring to specifically in terms of surrendering to the, I think you said the, like to his physical form or to his, sorry, maybe I'm misquoting you, to his personal
Well, he says
form.
Mama. Mama Maya, this is my Maya, and that want those who surrender unto me. Daivihi esha gunamayi mama Maya duratya mam eva ye prapadyantim, those who surrender to me. So mam, he's the subject and Maya is the he is the object. So there's a way in which he's very clearly saying mama, me. He's pointing to himself and he's saying, this is my energy, and if you surrender unto me, you can overcome it.
Let me try to clarify. What is the actual surrender? Like, I'm sure there's multiple points, but what is that?
What does the surrender look like?
Yeah.
Surrender looks like accepting Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead and then following his instruction.
Okay, thank you.
So there's a sixfold general path of surrender, which goes like this. Accept things that are favorable for serving Krishna and turn away things that are unfavorable. Then accept Krishna as one's maintainer and accept Krishna as the protection of one's life. Always remain meek and humble. Assume a position of a submissive position. And finally, one should consider that everything belongs to Krishna, and I engage everything in Krishna's service. It's all his property, including myself. I belong to him, so I'm giving everything to him. This is called the sixfold path of surrender, or Sharanagati.
Thank you for elaborating.
Thank you for the good questions, getting us deeper into the subject matter. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
In our Chaitanya Charitamrita class in the Madhya Lila chapter, we were hearing from Gauranga Darshan Prabhu there in the discussions with Sarabhuma Bhattacharya. Mahaprabhu was explaining very nicely when how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is personal and how is full of various opulences. And in that verse, he was specifically explaining that I was reading yesterday that the Lord is Satchidananda Vigraha, that he is full of eternality, bliss, and knowledge. And we living entity also possess these, but in somewhat smaller quantities. And he was using this to prove to him that he is full of spiritual potencies, not like mundane potencies.
Yes. And this is mentioned in various places, like Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakchir Ananda Vigraha Anadi Radha Govinda Sarva Karanakaranam. This is Lord Brahma, who's directly seeing Krishna, experiencing him by revelation, and he says that the Lord is a body of eternality, bliss, and knowledge, and he's the supreme controller. Yes.
I had a question that in the third canto, with reference to Vidura leaving the home and Duryodhana insulting him and telling him to go out of the home, it said that it was the same energy of Krishna, but on Duryodhana it was acting as external energy, and on Vidura the internal energy. But in the purport which we read, it said that the two energies are different. So I just wanted to understand whether they're same or they're different.
It's like electricity. It goes into what is the name of my air conditioner? Hitachi? I think it's a Hitachi. It's a air conditioner and heater. Don't get envious. So I had put in my kutir because I saw him in Japan. And so in the wintertime, it blows hot air. In the hot time of the year, which barely ever happens here, it puts out cool air. And there's one energy going into it. But then there's a panel in there, I guess, that figures out what I asked it to do and acts accordingly. So Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham manavartante manusha parta sarvasha. That as you approach me, whatever mood you approach me in, I'll accommodate you. And if someone is apetasya, in an averse mood to the Lord, then the Lord accommodates and he gives the Maya energy. And if somebody comes in a surrendered mood, then Krishna offers his internal potency, which is closer to himself. It's not separated. Because I want to be separated, Krishna's okay, you can sit in the corner over here. And so in one pastime, we see the same potency, but being manifested in two ways. For Duryodhana, who's averse to Krishna, he has this sense of envy of Krishna, then he's manifesting the external energy and being controlled by it. He's angry and he can't understand that Krishna is the supreme and so forth. Whereas Vidura, who's completely surrendered to Krishna, in the same room, in the same circumstance, he's feeling this impetus, like, I'm going to serve Krishna more. And he's taking shelter of the internal energy. He leaves the house. Everyone's supposed to say, Gauranga. Gauranga! He leaves the house in the sense of total surrender to Krishna and goes to the holy dhams. So Prabhupada mentions there that in the same pastime, same room, Krishna's energy is being manifested as an internal and external, according to the temperament of the person who's experiencing it. The whole material world's like that, because it's the perverted mentality of the living beings in the conglomeration of all the living beings in their perverted mentality. So what is in the spiritual world, Ladini, Sandini, and Samvit, becomes manifest in the material world as Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. It's like a crisscross. It comes into the energy and then it reverses. And that's Hladatapachaya. It's called, by Jiva Goswami, he says that what is the source of happiness, knowledge, and the sense of eternality becomes manifested in a way that we're only troubled. And it's because of our adverse mentality towards Krishna. We're turned around, so we get the opposite. You were going to say more?
So is it the correct understanding that the energy is the same, but the difference is that one is closer to Krishna and other is separated from Krishna?
Yeah, and as much as the electricity is the same, but it gets manifested in heat and cold.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. Atmamaya. Okay, 1, 2. No, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question. It kind
Keep that as close as you can.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
I have a question. It's regarding what you said earlier. I don't know if it's when we started this talk, but you had mentioned about service, and that if we'd even performed one act of service, that we would get the opportunity to do so again, like in next life. And my question wanted to elaborate on that, because it's said that Krishna is very kind and he reciprocates in the way that that beings want to reciprocate towards him. But it also talks about, there's two spirals, right? So as you do more service, you become more devotional and you become more oriented, and, perhaps you get more and more opportunities. And in the same way, if you become, more like in the mode of ignorance, or you do other things and you become, I don't know, like blinded in Maya or something like that, that could also perpetuate not just in this life, but in future lives, because, I think it talks about that in different books. So I guess my curiosity is, the question would be, is perfection guaranteed, in the sense that you can continuously like degrade yourself lifetime over lifetime into lower and lower forms, but eventually do they come back, or they're just like lost forever? So do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's a existential angst. Then am I lost forever or not? In fact, there's a verse in the 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in which Krishna seems to say, I push people, the demoniac, I push them down into lower species of life, and it seems as if they're lost. Prabhupada explains that verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he says, actually it's Krishna's mercy. They're able to, in fact, I'll just preface everything by saying that not only is Krishna the perfect moral agent, he knows exactly how to mete out, M-E-T-E, various kinds of circumstances in the life of a jiva, so that he or she will become sensitized and become a perfect being. And perfection comes in the form of love. He wants unconditional love from the living being, and that has to come from the core of the heart of the individual who says, I love Krishna, I want to serve Krishna unconditionally. That's the greatest happiness of the living being, and that's perfect alignment. So everything is organized in Krishna's energies specifically for us to come to that point. So if one becomes pushed down into the lower species of life, it's a temporary situation to give one a time out. If somebody comes into town, have you ever seen a Western?
Not many.
Does anybody know what a Western is? Do you know what Westerns are? Cowboys riding horses and like a hat on sideways, kind of like a little tilted. Comes into town, Westerns, there's a bar and a shooting. That's a Western. So I used to show people the Krishna book and I say, do you like Westerns? And people go, yeah, I love Westerns. I go, this is an Eastern. And if they say, no, I don't like Westerns, say, good, this is an Eastern. So in the Westerns, some guy usually gets drunk on alcohol, whiskey specifically, and then, starts shooting up the town, and the sheriff comes along and says, okay, come on, and he grabs him and puts him in the jail. And then in the morning, he's sobered up. And it's like, okay, you're going to be good now? It's like, yeah, I don't know what I was thinking, sorry. And he lets him back out of jail. So there's a kind of system like that in the universe where you start shooting stuff up, and material nature goes, okay, little fella, come in here, get in your cage, and then after you sober up, we'll let you back out again and give you another chance to be a good citizen. And Krishna says in the Gita, Bahunam jamanamante jnanavam mam prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sadurlabhaha. After many of these experiences, a living entity starts to develop this sense in the heart that I don't think I want to be in the material world anymore. I want to be a good person, not a bad person. And if somebody comes in contact with devotees, then there's this seed that gets planted. And the seed manifests in the form of this thought that I want to be like them. I like this person. I don't know what it is about them, but that's who I want to be like. That's the value I want to have. So it was a long answer to a short question, but the door's always open, and there's always, we're eternal. And so the scheme for every living entity is to come back to Godhead. However, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Maya Mukta Jiva Nahi Swata Krishna Gyan. It's not automatic that the living entity just pops out of the material nature and comes out of ignorance. It requires some kind of intervention. That's why Krishna takes trouble to appear millennium after millennium. He also sends Shakti Vaishavatars, or empowered souls, who come here with this enthusiasm that, let me save everybody. And they go out of their way, like Vyasadeva. He's a Shakti Vaishavatar, and he writes down all the Vedas. That takes a lot of work. You try to put one book together, try to put a pamphlet together. It takes a lot of work. Now, that's spelling mistakes. I don't like the design. Where are you going to print it? You know, it's a lot of trouble with the speaker writing the whole Vedas. So that takes enthusiasm and a lot of sense that, like, this has got to get out there so people can read it and come to their senses. So all these intervention devices are being employed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead just so the living entity can get a glimpse of it and say, like, wow, actually there is a higher reality, and come out. All this to say, yes, that's the purpose of the material creation, is to give the living entity an opportunity to willfully surrender to the Supreme and come out of darkness and back into the light. Tamasi ma jyotirgamai. Come out of the darkness and into the light is the mission statement for the material world. And that's Krishna's idea.
So am I understanding correctly then, so for when you're in a human form, you have the capacity and the opportunity to actually willfully decide to move in one direction or another. But if you're in a lower form, then Krishna has to come and somehow intervene in a way, because how will you remember? Like, they don't have a conception, right? Isn't that the purpose or the special nature of us being human? So then I have to assume that those other forms only get, I guess, saved because he decides that they can try again, so to speak?
There's some indication, Bhavayat Yesha Satvena Lokan Vai Lokabhavana Lila Vataranurato Deva Tiryan. He comes in every form of life to give everyone a chance. And Prabhupada talks about this in the Adi Lila. If you look at the Adi Lila, 4th chapter, 34th verse, and that second to last paragraph. Could somebody grab that really quick? Adi Lila 3, Adi Lila 434. Adi Lila 434, second to the last paragraph. And there, Prabhupada explains this phenomena. Is that what we're looking at on the screen? Okay.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Yes? Did I get the wrong verse? Thank you very much.
Yes, it is mentioned here that the Lord appears in different incarnations.
Okay, here you go. Incarnations of the Supreme Personality of God. I was wrong about the paragraph. It's 1, 2. It's third from the end. I'll start there. Incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead appear in all the species of life, although this is inconceivable to the human brain. So if you can't conceive of it, don't feel bad. The Lord's pastimes are differentiated according to the appreciating capacity of the different types of bodies of the living entities. The Supreme Lord bestows the most merciful benediction upon human society when he appears in his human form. It is then that humanity gets the opportunity to engage in different kinds of eternal service to the Lord. Special natural appreciation of the descriptions of a particular pastime of Godhead indicates the constitutional position of a living entity. Adoration, servitorship, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love are the 5 primary relationships with Krishna, the highest perfectional stage of the conjugal relationship enriched by many sentiments, gives the maximum relishable mellow to the devotee. The Lord appears in different incarnations as a fish, tortoise, and boar, as Parashuram, Lord Ram, Buddha, and so on, to reciprocate the different appreciations of living entities in different stages of evolution. The conjugal relationship of amorous love called Parakya Ras is the unparalleled perfection of love exhibited by Lord Krishna and his devotees. A phrase to take away from this is appreciating capacity. And in that case, the lower species of life have a lower aptitude for appreciating. They appreciate, when I say lower, the Lord in mostly Annamoy. There are various stages of appreciation of the Lord. Everyone's appreciating the Lord because there's nothing else to appreciate. He's everything, right? So their paradigm of explanation is that Annamoy means that you're able to appreciate food. Like a baby. A baby comes out and it's like, what would you like? Anything I could put in my mouth. And it's just like, it's about the mouth. It's like, oh, let me put it in my mouth and see what it feels like or tastes like and so forth. And very primitive forms of life. It's a living entity. There's a soul in there, but his main relationship with Krishna is to tasting, eating. And Krishna's maintaining him. So they're like, wow. They don't have a sense of causality, animals. Like if you look at a cat, you take a stick and you put a long string on it and then make a little paper bird. Anybody know how to make a paper bird?
I do.
Origami? You know how to do? Somebody should learn the art. Okay, then you tie, you know how? Okay.
I'm trained, yes.
Tie a little paper bird on the end. This is homework. Find a cat somewhere. And you go with the cat, and you go, here, kitty, kitty, and the cat's like, bah! And start chasing it around the room. You can go around for 3 hours, 6 hours, 2 days. The cat will still chase it up and down, and it'll never look up the stick and look at you and go like, hey, what are you doing? It'll just look at the little bird and think, like, there's a bird. I'm going to get him. This is a contracted consciousness. Give the cat a little something to eat, a little bowl of milk. And they feel like satisfied, happy, and that's their more basic relationship. It's all with Krishna, but their appreciating capacity is contracted. So it's always been inconceivable to me, and I'm glad to hear that Prabhupada said it is to the human brain, how Krishna comes to all the species of life. It's just, he's so cool. I mean, why would he show up, in the vegetable tribes and say, Haribo. It's just because he loves the soul so much. He goes with the soul in every species of life in the heart, and then he'll manifest in different ways. Like, here I am as a boar. Pigs don't get too depressed. It's okay. I mean, what's the life of a pig? It's kind of a tough life. They generally seem a little cranky to me, pigs. If you take them away from their food source even for a second, they're like, wah! Like, chill. But the Lord, he has this unlimited compassion. Hey, Krishna Karuna Sindhu. He's an ocean of compassion. What does that mean? He's always trying to help the living entity. So that's inconceivable, but we can understand on a scale of appreciation, the appreciating capacity. What's the word capacity mean? Where does it come from? The appreciating capacity, and then there's a way in which when you come to the human form, which is a portal where the consciousness is starting to, it's called budding consciousness. A bud means something's coming, it's going to open. It can open. And when a human being has sadhana, then it gets blooming consciousness. The consciousness opens through the spiritual sadhana. So it's like an evolution, and every, Krishna has his purposes, even for the animals.
No, that was wonderful, and I never read that passage, so I'm really glad that
it's good, right?
Today. Yeah, it's really
good.
Good.
It's very helpful. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your
Okay. Yeah, keep asking. It's good. Krishna Saka.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful class. I have a question. When we read like Krishna has internal and internal and external potencies and everything, why, if he is self-satisfied, he is Atma Ram, then why he creates these potencies? Why, like, I know rasa for rasa and all, but if he is self-satisfied, then why need of creating potency and enjoying rasa and everything?
If he's self-satisfied, why does he have to have potencies?
Potencies and why he wants to enjoy like rasas like with other living entities and all.
Well, that's really the definition of Krishna, that he's raso vaisaha, he's the source of all rasas, and he's the enjoyer of all the rasas. And so life or consciousness means enjoyment. And Sakchit Ananda Vigraha is the explanation of it. If you are a sugar cube, then there's nothing to enjoy. But if you're able to taste a sugar cube, not that I'm recommending it necessarily, you taste a sugar cube or be a glubjaman, or that's better. Be a glubjaman, because the sugar cube's probably boga. Be a glubjaman or taste a glubjaman, which would you rather do? So the Lord is the enjoyer. It's a much more beautiful concept. And he not only is the source of all enjoyment for other living entities because they appreciate him. We're all little appreciators because there's no meaning to a king without subjects. The king, okay, the king's alone. He comes into town, he's by himself. That's not a king. King means he's got kingly opulence, which means there's people around him everywhere. You ever see a big personality that always comes with an entourage? You walk in and it's like, hey, there's all these people. Everywhere he goes, the people are there. So that's the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But then he takes it even further because he doesn't have to restrict himself to just being the enjoyed by or appreciated, but he also becomes the appreciator as Lord Chaitanya. As he reasons that, wow, they're getting more happiness than I am as my separated parts. So I will also come as a devotee and enjoy. We're not so much interested in just self-satisfaction or being Atma Rama. There's something beyond that. And that's actually the point of the verse, of the Atma Rama verse. Atma Rama's Chamunayo, Nigranta Apyarukrame. That this sense of, okay, there's Atma Rama, and that's where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was explaining, there's all these people who are self-satisfied, but they want something more. Shukadeva Goswami was self-satisfied, so much so that he said, I want nothing to do with the material world. Anybody who wants absolutely nothing to do with the material world, raise your hand. Okay. Well, check out his standard. He didn't want to come out of the womb. Because he said, I'm not getting involved. And Krishna came and told him personally, no, it's okay, you can come out. I'll protect you. But he didn't take any chances. He came out of the womb and he took off running and went to the forest. And his father, Vyasadev's chasing after him, please come back. And like, I don't know you. And so in the forest, Vyasadeva understood the science. So he had his disciples recite the verses from the Bhagavatam, like Aho Bhakyam Stanakalakutam. Like, how merciful is Krishna that he killed Putana, and she tried to kill him, and he accepted her as a mother. Who could be more merciful? Who would surrender to anybody more? I mean, for those who are Atma Rama, and they hear the verse, Shukadeva Goswami heard it, and then his heart melted. And he said, I have to look into this. And he came back to learn the Bhagavatam. So it proves that the Atma Ramas, those who are totally self-satisfied, they don't need anything, they don't want to touch anything, they're attracted to the variety that comes from the lotus feet of Krishna. Yet pada pankacha palasa vilasya bhakta karmashrayam gratitam udgratayanti santa tadvanda rikta matayo yatayo pirudha shroto ganas tamaranam bhajavasudevam. Those people who are so-called self-satisfied, eventually they get washed away by the ocean of the material nature, some material desire comes. But only those who are absorbed in the pleasure that comes from Krishna's lotus feet can be in a safe position and never be attracted to the material world. What to speak of Krishna himself? He's the supreme enjoyer, and he's enjoying all the varieties of the spiritual world. Okay, 1, 2. And I asked this question, is everybody assimilating everything we're talking about in here? You got everything? You could recount it from the beginning? Okay, we'll come back to you in a minute.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I had a question. This came up in our, so we were reading from the 3rd canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in one of the verses, Brahma meditates for 100 years and then he is able to see the Lord in his heart. So there, Prabhupada says a statement, one has to wait for the mercy of the Lord before one can either render service unto him or know him as he is. So there was a question that what is it that I'm doing if I have to wait for the mercy of the Lord? So we had next question, that what does it exactly mean as the mercy of the Lord? So various cases we read prasada leshanu grihita evahi. So what is exactly the prasad? So that is the question.
Oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains this. He says, Brahmanda Brahmate kon bhagyavan jeev Guru Krishna prasade pai bhakti lata beach. That when the living entity is wandering about the material nature, when he becomes fortunate and he gets the mercy of the Lord, he meets a devotee. And then the devotee offers Krishna to that person, shows him how to taste Krishna. Here's prasadam, how to hear Krishna. Here's the holy names. Here's Srimad Bhagavatam, and so forth. So by the mercy of the devotee, one gets Krishna, and by the grace of Krishna, one gets the devotee. And how that happens is what's being explained, or going to be explained in the next few verses. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes from various scriptures to say this is how devotional service begins. The root cause is meeting a devotee. Now, that's also a topic of the Madhurya Kadambini. How is it that one actually gets the mercy of the Lord? Is it indiscriminate? No, there's a discrimination, because the Madhyamadhikaris, Ishvare Taradineshu Balisheshu Dusatsucha, Prema Maitri Kripopeksha Yakaroti Samadhyamaha. They're deputed by Krishna to give his mercy on his behalf. They're peons, they're delivering it to everybody. But they're asked to look at the address properly and deliver it in the right place. And therefore, they look to see those who are open, and they deliver the mercy. Those who are closed or inimical, they're asked to not deliver the mail at that time, because the person will tear it up. And then for the devotees, they make friendships appropriately, and then there's a way that they also develop and deepen their love for the Lord. So the message gets delivered through the devotee. The mercy of Krishna gets delivered from the heart of the devotee to the others. Bhavadvida bhagavatas tirta bhuta swayam vibho tirta kurvanti tirtani swantakstena gadabrata. Yudhishthira said this to Vidura before he went out traveling, that you're a holy place personified. Wherever you go, you purify the holy places, and you're also delivering Krishna from within your heart to others. So the devotees administer the Lord's mercy to the souls of the material world. And as they become fortunate, they meet a devotee, or they meet a devotee, they become fortunate. It's looked at both ways, as you'll see here. But it's generally taken that it's because of the contact of the devotee that then one awakens one's desire to become Krishna conscious. There was one more, and then over here. Wasn't somebody else? You had your hand up, and then we'll go to Pavani Bhakti.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I was contemplating on the purport that we were reading. It was mostly about the Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, that the Lord is simultaneously one and different. The oneness aspect, I was just meditating that the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna starts talking about his oneness with the Vibhutis, or he is reflecting in the world as one with his vibhutis or empowered incarnations, or empowered. And then he shows the Vishwaroop, which is a spark of his splendor because it pervades everything. And that is a oneness that Arjuna experiences because he sees all the aspects of divinity right in Krishna as one. So I was meditating how we talked about a distinction part of it, that Krishna and his energies these are the different categories, Advaita. But there is a oneness aspect which comes in chapter 10, and then it metamorphizes in the vision that Arjuna has of Krishna, and he becomes disturbed, petrified, and then Krishna shows his sweet form, where the energies are not being exhibited in total, and the sweetness is being exhibited, and that's where the relationship can be established. So I was just meditating on that aspect, that how the oneness of the Lord, it appears to be with his energies, is factually presented in Vishwarupa, but it is not ultimately very attractive. The distinction aspect of, or not knowing that he has that powerful energies, allows us to have that kind of relationship with him. So I was trying to adjust and understand whether having this conception of achintya bheda, bheda tattva becomes a bottleneck for us to have a sweetness, have a relationship with the sweetness aspect of the Lord. That is the message that is there in chapter 10th and 11th.
Yeah. Well, we'll find in the beginning of the Bhagavatam that the medicinal measure for the living entity is to see the universe in relationship with the Lord. Because the conditioned state is to look at the world and think, how can I control this? I have this much, but I want it over here and this and that. And everything I look at, I contemplate. Dhyato vishayam pumsam sangasteshu bhajayate. I'm thinking like, that belongs to him, but I'm going to take it, or I'm going to buy it, or something. I want to control it. This is the vision of a conditioned person in the material world. So Shukadeva Goswami then walks his disciple, Parikshit Maharaj, through this exercise, and he said, now look at the world in a little different way. See it as this body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything's Advaya Gyan Tattva. It's all Krishna. The trees are his hairs, the rivers are his veins, and he starts there, that come into focus and see how everything's Krishna. Aham sarvasya pravavo matak sarvam pravartite iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. And as one develops this sense coming out of the illusion that everything's mine, it's all meant for me, or my country. This is my country, and this is, or whatever limited conception there is, which is separate in vision from the Lord, then that oneness is important as a medicinal measure, chikitsitam, to come to see that everything's Krishna. And then it becomes more specific about one's personal relationship with Krishna. As Shukadeva Goswami then talks about how you can see the personal form of the Lord within your heart. And then he talks about the relationship, and he says, akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udarati tivrena bhakti yogina yajeta purusham param. That he said, your relationship with Krishna is very nice. In fact, he said that don't worry that you're still contaminated. If you just approach Krishna through bhakti, then Krishna will fulfill all your desires in such a way that you'll be able to rectify yourself. So the achintya bheda bhed tattva, it's inconceivably one and different. But for the sake of enjoyment, the difference is there. But the tattva is that it's all one. And that it works perfectly if you examine it in all cases, how Achintya bheda bhed tattva works. Anyway, that was not a very clear ending to my point, but I think you got the first part. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was thinking about Krishna's mercy and how it comes about that point. My realization was that everything is because of Krishna's mercy, especially in the pastime where Krishna winds down his material pastimes and Arjuna comes back and he's talking to Yudhishthir, and that time Arjuna is thinking that at every step in his life, how Krishna was there with him as his friend, as his supporter, when he was winning Draupadi, when he had to put the arrow on the fish by looking at the water. That couldn't have been possible without Krishna's mercy. And all the wars that he had won, Bhagavad Gita that he heard. So when Krishna passed away, that time Arjuna was saying that I am the same Arjuna, I have the same Gandiva bow, and everything is the same, but now I cannot even win some coward boys. So the realization there was for Arjuna was that everything is because of mercy of Krishna, and if we don't use it for service of Krishna, those powers are taken away from us. So we have to keep engaging.
Nice. Nicely done. Okay, Geeta Priya, go ahead. You don't have to get it all, but just it's helpful to recollect. Oh, by the way, you looked up a word. What was it? Capacity. What does it mean?
Capacity, it's a noun. It's the ability to contain, size, extent.
The ability to what?
It's to contain.
The ability to contain.
Pertaining to size and extent.
Pertains to size and extent.
And it comes from Old French capacité, which is ability to hold.
To hold.
And from Latin capacitatum, which is nominative capacitas, which is breadth, capacity, and capability of holding much.
Capability of holding something. Okay, how much can we hold? All right, now can you tell us any of the points that we started with from the very beginning?
I wasn't here for the very beginning, but I do remember a point where you mentioned that Westerns and how you said the Krishna book was an Eastern, and how in Western movies usually some guy gets drunk and then they get in jail and then they sober up in jail and then they're let out the next morning, and how you related that to the material world, which is basically we're drunk and we're put in here until we sober up, and then we're let out when we're ready. And I really liked that point.
Bravo, brava. Any other points that everyone assimilated? Yes. Sadhu Vrindavan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, in the beginning of the class, you were talking about how living entities, we search for happiness, we search for material happiness, but at the end we get disappointed. And in the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada describes this as chapala sukha, or flickering happiness. And he gives the businessman analogy. The businessman, he works Monday to Friday to keep his family happy. But he gets bored, and during the weekend, he goes for a vacation to get happy, and then he comes back on Monday to start work again. And Prabhupada also refers to this as bhoja tyaga, or alternating sense enjoyment. Alternating sense enjoyment. And I was thinking that if we really want to be happy, or if we want to really get transcendental happiness, we have to start loving the Lord. Also in the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada says that the basic propensity of a living entity in the material world is to love someone. And if we stimulate that love towards Lord Krishna, if we stimulate that love towards Krishna, I was thinking we'd be really happy. And at the same time, if we stimulate that love towards Krishna, we'd love all other living entities, and we'd not be envious. Because Prabhupada also gives the analogy of watering the root of a plant. If we water the root, it'll distribute the water to all the parts of the plant instead of, watering, the leaves. Watering the leaves won't do anything. But so if we water the root, it'll go to all the parts of the plant. And similarly, if we love Krishna, we'd be happy, and we'd love all other living entities, and not be envious.
Thank you, Sadhu Vrindavan. There was a lot there. Look up the word stimulate, because he used that verb. And this is actually the process of bhakti. It's called a cultivation. The sense of devotion is there within the heart of every being. It's intrinsic. And by stimulation, it becomes awakened. We might say that a seed is stimulated. It lies dormant in a little package perhaps. And then when you take it out, bok choy, a little seed, and you say, come here, little fella. And you put him in his own cup. You get some nice rich earth that doesn't have any contamination in it. Make it moist. And then it's a little warm, sun's coming down, and the little seeds in there go like, I think I'll wake up now. There's something to wake up for. And it sprouts and pops up. And so that sense that we have of love for Krishna is they're dormant. What's the word I just asked you for? Stimulate means?
Stimulate is a verb and it means rouse to action.
And where does it come from?
It comes from Latin, stimulatus, which is a past participle of stimulare.
And what does it mean? The root, stim. Just look at the etymological dictionary, see if you can find about the root. And then this, so the seed, yes, seed wakes up. So similarly, in bhakti, the word udipana means to stimulate. Udipana means that there's, I can use a modern word that people use a lot, triggers. That really triggered me. It's very popular now. It's like, that's a trigger. Just seeing you triggers. So in bhakti, we surround ourselves by triggers. Everything's a trigger. You know, why do we come and see Tulsi? It's like, oh, that's pretty nice. But, she's actually from the spiritual world. So we start to trigger that. And then you have the spiritual master, and then you have the deities, and you have the sense, and the sense means S-C-E-N-T-S. And all these various stimuli. Bhakti is a stimuli-rich or stimulus-rich environment. And then that helps, by proximity to awaken our sense of bhakti that's there sleeping within the heart. Anything more from stimulus?
Yes, from Proto-Indo-European sti, which means point, prick, or pierce.
Means what?
Point.
Point?
Mm-hmm. Prick or pierce.
Or pierce.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, that's pretty cool, right? What's the root word in Proto-Indo-European?
Sti.
Sti.
S-T-I.
Does it trace it back to Sanskrit by any chance?
No.
Okay. Proto-Indo-European kind of means it's pointing back that way anyway, but sometimes they're very specific. Sti means like some little thing that pricked, and made an opening. So that's, we need the stimuli to come to that point. Thank you. Well done. That was a medley of good points. Okay, we'll take maybe one last thing. Yes, or two last things.
It's very impressive every time to hear about there are so many potencies, Krishna's potencies, and when studying, it helps to connect everything to Krishna. So it helps to remember Krishna actually when you study more and more the potencies.
Yes, and it's one of the frequent points Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita, where he's describing his potencies and say, "See, this is me. You can see me everywhere." Punyo ganda prativyancha tejas chasmi vibhavaso jivanam sarvabhuteshu tapas chasmi tapasvishu bijamam sarvabhutanam vidiparta sanatanam buddhir buddhivantam asmi tejas tejasvinamaham. So he's describing, I'm the light of the sun. And in Hawaii, in the early days, how many of you have been in Hawaii? Probably everybody now after the pandemic, right? It seems like a place where you'd fall into Maya because it's too nice. I'll just be happy and sit on the beach. So the devotees, the Krishna conscious movement got started in Hawaii. And then the devotees, I mean, here in Hawaii, sooner or later you're going to go to the beach, right? So the devotees go to the beach, and especially the ones that grew up there and joined the movement, they're used to going to the beach, and they started thinking, maybe I won't go to the beach. Prabhupada said, no, you can go to the beach. And they said, well, but Prabhupada, it's Maya. And Prabhupada said, Krishna's the light of the sun. How could you be in Maya? Krishna's, he says of all bodies of water, I'm the ocean. How could you be in Maya? And of course, you could be in Maya. And I don't know if it's a telling statistic, but I think that temple's been through more temple presidents than any other ISKCON center in the world. But in any case, this is a fact that Krishna himself presents his potencies and said, this is me, this is me. And on Gaur Purnima, around 1975, Prabhupada gave a lecture in which he talked specifically about how Krishna is a taste in water. That was his Gaur Purnima lecture. And he said, when a devotee drinks water, he or she thinks, Krishna's so kind. He's given me this, quench my thirst, and the taste is so nice. It revives me. This is Krishna, obviously Krishna. It's a direct relationship in tasting the water. And this is the way to become Krishna conscious, Prabhupada said. So he said, so what if you're in the mode of ignorance? You don't drink water, you just drink wine. He said, so Krishna's a taste in wine also. So if a drunkard starts thinking like, wow, this taste is Krishna, and starts thinking the grapes and the sun, it ripened them on the vine, where does the sun come from? It's like, yeah, I think I'll just get a japa bag instead. That stimuli comes up, and the curiosity is pricked, by Krishna's presence in the form of his energies. And if we can remember the connection, that's the main point. The main point of failure is called Ratertam yat pratyetan na pratyeta chatmani tadvidyadatmano mayam yatapaso yatatamaha. Krishna told Brahma that anytime you see anything and it doesn't have a relationship to me, or you think it doesn't have a relationship to Krishna, you're not thinking like that it has a relationship to Krishna. He said, that's Maya. That's darkness. Because everything has a relationship to me. And that's Krishna consciousness. You start seeing everything. What about your work? I'm working. That's not Krishna conscious. So you see that in relationship. Kurvan nirantaram karma, loko yam manavartate, tenaiva karmana jayam mam param bhaktamichiti. Krishna says in Brahma Samhita, Brahma. That's a nice section because Krishna is talking personally to Brahma as a friend. How do you know he's a friend? Vrindaranya, in that section. He's talking to Brahma at the beginning of the universe. How do you know he's friendly? I'll give you a hint. He says, Bhadram te, and he does something else. Okay. Thank you, Vrindaranya. He shakes hands. Shakes hands. Isn't that nice? He's like, I don't know if it was like this. Doesn't say, but somehow or other, he shook hand. I'd like to think it was like, okay, Brahma, good luck. Bhadram te. Krishna's so cool, he could do that. I mean, I have a picture in my room of Krishna as a baby. He's wearing a tiger's nail around. What baby wears a tiger nail around their chest? He's sitting there like, hey, I got bracelets, I eat butter, I'm cool. So Krishna's like that, and then he gives this instruction to Brahma, just sort of like encapsulates it in a few verses. He says, Kurvan nirantaram karma, loko yam manavartate. Everybody's working, right, Brahma? If they just see their work in relationship to me, Jayam, meditate on it, I'm doing this for Krishna, so they'll become perfect too. What's the difficulty, as Prabhupada used to say? Okay, we're coming for the close. Yes? Can you tell me translation? Oh, from Zoom there's something. Okay, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Shringara.
Oh, Shringara. Hare Krishna.
So I really like that point where you said triggers, because we talk about this in post-traumatic stress disorder also, that when there are triggers, people are reminded of their traumatic events, and they go into they relive, and then they have flashbacks, and they are back. They are back into that state. So I really liked how if we have these devotional triggers, that will bring us closer to Krishna. Thank you.
She's a psychologist, by the way. Yeah. Also, I've heard in some therapies. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, Sringaras. But if somebody has amnesia, there's some ways in which, show. Do you remember this? You remember? Remember little Stevie? You remember when you won this award for skipping in kindergarten, 7th place? And gradually, there's this sense of like, yeah, I remember that. I think I tripped, and so there's this, it's a kind of a therapy. The sadhana bhakti is a kind of therapy, this trigger therapy. To amnesia is like walking around and think, I'm an American. It's like, yeah, snap out of it. You're a soul. Wake up, little jiva, jiv jago. And like, remember this? Remember the spiritual world? Remember Tulsi? Come on. Here's Govardhan Hill. And that's, so we go to the Dham, and you get this sense. You're walking around Govardhan Hill, and you go, this feels like home, actually. It's like, right, okay, Jiva, you're doing good now. Keep going, keep walking. Wake up early and go to Mangal Artik. And when that feeling becomes more and more advanced, then it's not a practice anymore. It's just like, this is who I am. I remember now. I woke up to my identity, and you're just fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, because that's who you are anyway. The whole material world is a colossal hoax. Everyone's talking about this is a hoax, that's a hoax. The whole thing's a hoax. It's a huge, huge scam on a colossal level. So you can just categorically write off the whole thing as a hoax. And you really, you don't have to listen to the details of the noise. I don't know if that makes sense. Noise means a cacophony. It's just all mixed up together. It makes you sick, actually. That's where the word noise comes from, is nausea. It means seasickness. And you listen to all the noise and you're like, I feel sick. It's like, just chant Hare Krishna then. That'll help a lot. Okay, now for the close.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I was just thinking that, when I first read the 5th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, and, thinking about Krishna's opulences and the whole material universe, I was driving by and I was just thinking, wow, I never knew I'm actually in a stem where Brahma is sitting on the top. I was just thinking that reading scriptures, just as you said, getting out of amnesia and getting to the real situation of where you are. And another point I just wanted to mention is I had a break for a couple of days, and my mind told me that I had some extra time. So I wanted to check out to see how everything that's going on. And then I was just trying to tell myself that after a day of, not that I was watching it all the time, but I was just thinking that any extra time, I better plan ahead of time so that I fill it up with only Krishna conscious stuff. Because watching anything that's happening in the material world is not going to give me anything. I was so super disturbed. And then I said, I don't want a break. I better keep my thing going, one after the other, so that I don't feel this misery and, just be in connection with Krishna.
Sure. And it's not that Prabhupada didn't tune into current events. You'll notice that he wrote in BTG articles about various conflicts. One of them is about China and India sharing the same border. Why are they fighting? And here's why they're fighting, and so forth. If we consume it without seeing the relationship to Krishna, then it can become just disturbing. But if we see it in relationship to Krishna, also we should be careful, because it's like, you just do something mindlessly and they go, yeah, I meant to do that, because I offer that to Krishna. But so be deliberate and exposing yourself to anything in the material world. Deliberate means make sure you see the relationship to Krishna. Okay, now the very last. Is that Tadiya, Prabhu? Okay, Prabhu, go ahead for the close.
Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. my question is related to reciprocation. We know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, he is not visible to us in this material world. He is only visible to us in the form of a deity form. So, for any relationship, there is always a reciprocation. If we don't feel reciprocated, then that relationship dies. So I was just wondering, in the prasadam we see that reciprocation. In the association of devotees, we see that reciprocation. Is there anything else we can, cling to our repose our complete faith that Krishna is absolutely reciprocating with us? It's not, it's not some imaginary figure. Krishna is real, and Krishna is always looking after us. Krishna is taking care of us. That kind of, some kind of faith can we have, and how we can perceive that?
I have a suggestion. You can try this as homework. Just try flipping that. And instead of saying, how can I have more faith in Krishna? Then ask this question: how can Krishna have more faith in me? It's a relationship. So why is it that we have to, it's like Krishna has to prove himself to us constantly? Why not just say, okay, I'm going to be the one who proves myself to Krishna, that I'm for real. And if you just do that and change the role, then you'll be happy immediately. And you'll go about your day thinking, I'm going to show Krishna that I'm worth his time and his glance. So don't try to see Krishna, but try to work in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. And if you just flip that one switch, then you'll be happy. And Krishna will reveal himself in ways that you won't even want to speak about because no one's going to believe you. And you just keep it to yourself and just keep feeding that energy that you get from Krishna revealing himself to you in amazing ways to the most intimate devotees you know, or just keep it in your own heart and say, Krishna, I know you're there for me, and I want to prove myself to you because for so long I've been the runt of the litter. I'm that little puppy that nobody wants. They come by and go, not that one. I got left out of the litter because I'm just a little runt spiritually. And I'm the mercy case. And if you do that and you try to please Krishna, Atashi Krishna Namadi Nabhaved Grayamindriye Sevamukhi Jivadoswayam Eva Spratyada. You take this perspective that I'm going to serve Krishna, and that's all there is to it. And everything else will be revealed from that point. So that's such a nice question. Thank you very much for asking, and that's our close for the day. We didn't get that far in the book, but what we need to do is camp out somewhere for about 1,000 years in the forest, and just we'll have nice prasadam, and we'll have kirtan, and we'll bring in that saxophone player and the whole thing, and the French horn. And then we'll just have like this ongoing hearing and chanting session for 1,000 years. Who would like to sign up for the seminar? Okay. Govind Charan and Vaisesika will set it up for us. Hare Krishna. Okay. So now we have an option of things to do. I have to vamonos out of here as soon as possible because I have another engagement coming up for the opening of the Bhakti Shala at Kent Putnam Prabhu's house. And so there's a couple more things we have to do that I know of. Is there an extra talk today? No extra talk. Okay, let's do our announcements. Is that okay? And Prabhu, you go first. Let's welcome the leader of our Bhakti community, the co-leader, Jai Madhava Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. As you know, Bhakti community is an online community focused on bringing newcomers closer to Vaishnavas so that they can learn Bhakti from them. So whenever you go out and distribute books, please do introduce them to Bhakti community so that they can learn and make progress in Bhakti. So this week, we have various programs throughout the week. This week on Monday, we had Bhakti On program, where we continued our affirmation series. And this week was the 5th affirmation, the topic was affirmation 5. My body is healthy, my mind is sharp, and my life is in balance. It was a very engaging discussion, and as part of body, Vaisesika Maharaj also, in a vivid, detailed way, explained how to cook khichdi. And everyone was very hungry, and quite a few of them also asked for recipes and videos, etc. So there was, oh yeah, that's right. Grace is here; she's vouching for it. Thank you. So that was fun, and also Radha Kripa Prabhu's formula also became hit. His formula to maintain body was half, half, half. Whenever he goes and takes prasadam, his formula is just half, half, half. So it was very good, engaging discussion. Matango from Arizona, who had joined Bhakti On for the first time, he really loved the discussion. So he was thankful for it. In the Thursday's BSH program, we discussed BSH page by page program. We discussed the Sri Ishopanishad, which we had kirtan at the beginning and the end. That was also well received. And from next week onwards, we will be restarting our Bhakti Circle program, which is a 32-week program which systematically introduces Bhakti Yoga. So as you can see, we have the 32-week step-by-step program. And we have a nice video, which we start off with a short video introducing the topic, and then the newcomers go into different breakout rooms, and they discuss with the breakout room leaders. This has been proven very successful. A lot of people have really shared very deep, they have deeply appreciated how this has transformed them and helped them make progress. So we are restarting that coming from Thursday. So in case you know of any newcomer who might benefit, please do send a note out to hayatbhakticommunity.com or sign up on the website, and they'll be given the link. So please do share this far and wide. And on Friday, we continue our Success Sadhana program. We currently have the Lessons from Golden Monk series. And this week's topic was Find Your Flow, which we had very good discussion. I mean, people do resonate with the flow concept. And Kim from Florida was very thankful. These seminars and programs, she did mention that's transforming her life. So thank you so much for all the book distributors, all the leaders who are participating and helping the newcomers, and also to Vaisesika Maharaj for continuously inspiring us. Thank you.
And now we have our co-leader of the Sankirtan department, Malini Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna. After the ecstatic offering that we made to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on Gaur Purnima, we started our next MSF, which is for Lord Ramchandra, Ram Navami. And we were debating what goal should we have for that MSF. But we decided, usually we only have 3 weeks of gap, so it's very less time. But still, looking ahead for the Bhadra Purnima, we just thought we will do at least 25 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam to offer it to Lord Ramachandra. And today, Vaisesika Prabhu was mentioning about the peon. So last Saturday when we went door to door, we actually witnessed the service of the peon. We were just going door to door. We were trying to pick the addresses and then go. And it happened that there was a house behind another house. It's called as a flagship lot. So there's like a long pathway and then there's a house behind it. So not knowing the address, we just skipped that house and we just went ahead. And we went to another house where that lady was really, really nice. She took Srimad Bhagavatam and she said that with a tear in her eyes, she said, I also want to engage in some service in your temple. So I'm telling this without asking permission from my husband. She was a traditional woman, but then she told us that you should go to a house. This is a flagship plot. You have to go, it's behind. So then we just walked back all the way, and then we went to that house. This lady, she's a doctor, and husband is some software engineer. They're so appreciative about the Srimad Bhagavatam. They follow the Ramakrishna mission, but they appreciated all the sentiments of bhakti, and they said that we should have a program. They should have a program in their house. They will invite all their friends, and they will have a class on Bhagavatam. They will have a kirtan program. So they signed up for everything, along with Srimad Bhagavatam. And we were just wondering how much donation we will get. So the previous house we went, they were a doctor. So we just told them, they asked, how much donation do you give? And then the previous house gave 500. We said, yeah, they gave 500, so maybe you can give more. And then they immediately somehow, they thought that is too much of a donation. So they didn't take the Bhagavatam, they didn't give anything. So we thought in this house we'll not mention anything about donation. So we said, whatever you like, you can give as a donation. And they gave $516 donation for a Bhagavatam set. More importantly, they spent almost 1.5 hours talking about the details about Bhakti Yoga and trying to understand. So as Prabhu was mentioning, we just have to look up the right address and be there as a peon. Krishna arranges everything. We just have to show up. So it's such a wonderful experience going out door to door, meeting people, teaching them about Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So if you have an opportunity, please do not miss it, because we do not know how long is our camp here in this material world. So we might take advantage of every moment we have. So please do join us today as well. We will be distributing Srimad Bhagavatams door to door, Krishna willing. And also another goal for this Ram Navami, we usually read the entire Ramayana. But this year we wanted to study a section of Ramayana. We are trying to study the section of Sundarakanda. And also an exciting part is that we are going to perform a drama. And this will be a professional one, in the sense like we will put in a lot of energy in the script, costumes, rehearsals, maybe auditions if somebody would like to come. Some parts which needs a lot of emotion. Radhika Prema Mataji is going to be the director, and Vrindavan Priya Prabhu is our script writer. He's working on it. And take this opportunity, because if you enact something, then you'll remember it more. And we'll also study the Sundarakanda section. So we'll send out an email on ISKCON SV General to sign up. The only requirement as per Radhika Prema Mataji is that you have to show up for the practices. Otherwise, the drama doesn't come out well. And we'll pick a date according to Prabhu's availability when we will perform. But this is something that we are planning to do for this MSF, to study some sections of Sundarakanda and to enact a drama. That's all, Prabhu. And today, Western Sankirtan team they're going to Santa Cruz and many other places. This is one of them. And we'll go door to door Cupertino, Fremont, and Dublin, Pleasant, and San Ramon area. Hare Krishna.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Gauranitai, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev, if you so desire. Please empower our devotees in our community so that they'll be successful in Bhakti community, making more new devotees who can take fully to the process of Krishna consciousness. And may our Sankirtan party expand unlimitedly in the distribution of Srila Prabhupada's books. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone who believes in this prayer or supports it in part or in whole, please say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpataruscha kripasindabevacha patitanam pavyo namo namaha nantakoti vaishnavindiki jai. Now we have a Guru Puja. So we'll move all the seats out of the way and assemble for that worship. This is from the 24-hour kirtan. It's the real thing. Thank you. Perfect. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Katha Koranai Hasindo, Vrindavana Sina Hitavata, Prasida Radha Pranaya Pracharo, He Dinabando Koranai Hasindo, Kuru Prasada Mai Mandabudhe, Daksha Paradhe Bahupapa Dadhe, Tatpada Padme Stumatisha Krishna. I bowed down to the beautiful lotus feet of my spiritual master. By whose causeless mercy, I have obtained the supreme holy name. the divine mantra, the service of the son of Shachimata, the association of Srila Surup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, and his older brother, Sanatan Goswami, the supreme abode of Mathura, the blissful abode of Vrindavan, the divine Radha Kund and Govardhan Hill, and the desire within my heart for the loving service of Sri Radhika and Madhava in Vrindavan. O spiritual master, O giver of divine wisdom, O friend of the fallen, you are the giver of your own bliss, and you are the only ocean of mercy. Although dwelling in Vrindavan, you have descended for the welfare of fallen souls like myself, and you are preaching the divine love of Radha for Krishna. Please be kind upon me. O friend of the lowly, O Gurudev, you are the only ocean of mercy. I am a dull fool and have committed hundreds of thousands of offenses. I have fallen into a dense myriad of sins. Therefore grace me with your mercy, so that my mind may be fixed on your lotus feet and on Shri Krishna. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain pure devotional service. I bow to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. Our only wish is to have our consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens our darkened eyes and fills our hearts with transcendental knowledge. He is our Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic prema emanates. By him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor and the Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. Your fame is spread all over the three worlds. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Pati Sadma Bando Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te Guru Mukha Padma Bhagya Chite Teko Diya Oikya Sri Guru Charane Rati Yeshe Utama Gati Nike Prasade Kure Sarva Prasade Pure Sarva Vede Gai Jahara Charito Sri Guru Karina Sri Adamathanara Bandhu Ekanath Lokera Jivana Prabhu Kora Doya Deha Mure Padachaya Ede Jash Kushikri Bhuvana Ede Jash Kushikri Bhuvana Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavani Paschatyarishatharine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai, Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Sri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Sri Mayapur Navdeep Dham ki jai, Sri Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai, Tulsi Devi, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Jamuna Devi, Ganga Devi ki jai, Samveda Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. All glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to the assembled devotees, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Any other announcement? Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming to the Saturday program. And the steady approach to Krishna consciousness is the best, because consistency over time develops spiritual strength, which is necessary to continue the process of Krishna consciousness. So even if you only think you can do a little bit, make sure you just do it every day, and then there's a drop-by-drop instillment of spiritual strength in the heart. And of all the processes of devotional service, the most joyful is taking prasadam, in my humble opinion. Who are the cooks for the day? Who is on the other side, other wing of the building doing their devotional service?
Hare Krishna, today's prasadam was cooked by Yashoda Kripa Prabhu, Rama Priya Prabhu, Sumit Prabhu, and Purushottam Gauranga Prabhu.
Sharidat Vijaja Jotendriya Taheka Jive Pele Vishaya Shagore Dharmaje Jivayati Loba Mursu Durmati Take Jeta Katita Shanshare Krishna Bododoya Moy Kori Bare Chihwajai Shaprashadana Dilobai Shayana Vritapao Radha Krishna Gunagao Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Preme Dako Shri Chaitanya Nitai Ma Prasade Govinde Amagrami Vaishnave Sapa Punyabtam Rajan Vishwase Nandayate Prasade Sarvat Bhagavad Shri Mahaprasad ki Varhapidam Naftavaravatu Karnayo Karnikaram Vibradvasa Kandakapisham Vajayatim Shamalam Ranjam Venor Adara Sudaya Punayan Gopa Vrindaya Vrindaranyam Sapada Ramanam Pravisha Gita Kirti Tavakatam Vritam Tapta Jivanam Kaviviritam Kalmashapaham Sravana Mangalam Srimadattatam Bhuri Pradantiye Bhuri Jajana Krishna Kirtana Kana Tartana Ato Jani Pradita Sadbhakta Balihamsa Chakra Madhupa Sringi Viharaspradam Karnanandi Galatani Vahatume Diva eva himaras da eva chaitra shrapas ekon milita malati suradaya rodha kadambanila sachaivasmita kapitatra surata vyapara lila vida Revaro rasivera sitarutale Jetasamutantave Sri Vishnu Shavane Parichirabhavan Vaisesika kirtane Praladasmarane Vivachane Lakshmi Ritu Pujane Akurashtra Vibandhane Kapipati Dasveta Sakya Arjuna Sarvasvamani Vedani Valirapu Krishna Pireshambara Aradyo Bhagavan Prajeshatanaya Dadgama Vrindavanam Ganya Kachirupasana Vrajavudu Varkena Yakolpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumato Maha Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Bhatanida Gadgadharana Pada Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Bhatanida Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Nitai Gora Hari Bo. Please come take prasadam. Hari Bo.